Hi everyone, I am Divya Mohan, a principal technology advocate at SUSE. This is yet another episode of Ranch Alive where we bring you guests subject matter who obviously are subject matters well versed with different projects and different aspects from across the open source ecosystem. um, During the course of this episode, not just this one, but across episodes, we talk about open source projects, sometimes the cultural aspects of open source projects, sometimes the technical aspects, sometimes both. So we are incredibly fortunate to have had a stellar lineup so far and continuing with the tradition of keeping y'all up to date with the latest and greatest from the world of cloud native. Today, I will be having a very special person from the Konveyor project. She's a maintainer. But more on that in a bit because, as y'all all know, during the course of these sessions and episodes, what tends to happen is questions do come up, and there are overarching concerns about specific areas of the project or the subject matter being discussed. So that is something that you can ask of us on the chatbot. You can enter your questions, your comments on the chatbot, and I'll try relaying them to the guests that we host for that particular evening, morning, day, whatever. And while answering the questions, which will be probably at the end of the episode, because we do have a few questions that we want to ask of our guests, we will be relaying them in a sequential manner. So it's our humble ask that you actually um, type in the questions in the best possible language that you can in terms of courtesy and politeness, because we're here to learn and share knowledge, so everybody benefits from the questions being asked in the right way. With that, my house rules kind of are set for this episode, and I'm incredibly excited to bring on Savitha, who is not just the maintainer for Konveyor. She also has worked with other projects in the CNCF ecosystem like Kubernetes. But Savitha, firstly, welcome to Ranch Alive. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of the show. Do you want to tell the audience more about your cloud native and your open source experience, contributor wise, maintainer wise, and work wise, probably?
Of course, thank you. Thank you, Divya, for having me on the show. Uh, I'm honored to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Savitha Raghunathan. I am a senior software engineer at Red Hat, currently working on app modernization technologies. I am one of the maintainer for Konveyor project, which we will talk about during today's episode. But I want to give a little bit of background as to what I do or like where I started my open source journey. I have been contributing to Kubernetes for at least 4 or 5 years. That's where my journey started. I was an end user first, and then I attended this San Diego KubeCon. Sorry, not San Diego, Seattle KubeCon. That was my first KubeCon 2018. And then I went into this country bikes maintenance session. I was the only one who was like not knowing what was happening there. And then I got to know about the mentoring session there. That's how my journey got started. So um, I have grown a lot. Like I started as a shy contributor who was afraid to talk in any meetings, going from there to leading a release of Kubernetes during the heights of pandemic. And also, after that, I am one of the sub-project leads for six security documentation projects. I met amazing people along the way. I made friends, and one of the wonderful friends is Divya. And if you ever happen to be at KubeCon, you would always see us both together. Um, I'll get that out of the way. And I also contribute to CNCF initiatives for when CNCF had this tag in environmental sustainability, contributed a little bit to the blog program there. And then right now I'm looking into developer experience. I'm also a CNCF ambassador. So I love this ecosystem because it's open source aspect of it, giving back, and also the community aspect of it. It's really nice, warm, and welcoming. That's one of the reasons. And that's also one of the reasons I also enjoy mentoring folks. When I came up, there was someone actually who was like helping me, hey, do this, do that. This is how you can grow. And it really feels great to give that back to the community. That's one of the things I like. If you let me talk, I'll talk throughout this episode, which I'm gonna probably do. So, like, right back to you,
Well,
Divya.
well, that was a very quick summary of your journey, and I want to be very forthright about the topic that we're going to talk today, which is Konveyor. And I'm curious about the modernization aspect of it. So I understand that it is a CNCF project, and cloud native modernization is all the rage. So could you talk to what problems does it solve when you're talking about cloud native modernization, and how did it exactly evolve? Because I'm sure that it was not like at the drop of a hat you all actually picked up the idea and ran with it. There would have been several evolutionary steps that you all went through, so could you talk to some of it?
Oh, of course, yes. I will answer to the best of my knowledge. Some of the things like background and everything started way before I joined Red Hat, but I think I have some knowledge around as to like I can at least shed some details. First off, Konveyor is a CNCF Sandbox project that assists with accelerating the legacy apps modernization onto cloud native platform. What does it mean? So bigger enterprises, larger organizations, everyone has actually made huge investments on cloud native and Kubernetes, to be honest. Like everyone has their own Kubernetes platform, or either on cloud or like hybrid or on-prem, somehow they have made the investment. And on the other hand, they also have a bunch of traditional applications, as I would call them. They are running them on like VMs or like think of huge Java applications that powers banking, retail, and whatnot. And now there is this gap, right? So they have made the investment already, bringing or like deploying the clusters, Kubernetes clusters, adopting all the related cloud native technologies like Open Telemetry and whatnot, Prometheus. They have installed all these things. They have those stack running, and they also have this legacy app that's running, and they need a mechanism or a way to bring those legacy applications onto Kubernetes. There is of course lift and shift, but that doesn't work well all the time, because like for example, if you're running one Java app on a single VM, then you're going to give it like 8 gigs of memory or whatnot, and you want to just bring it onto Kubernetes, and you're going to allocate the same amount of resources. It's not scalable, it's not efficient in any way. So like what the current technologies let us do is that you could modernize those applications. You can make it Kubernetes friendly, cloud native friendly, and whatnot. That's where Konveyor fits in. Konveyor helps accelerate the journey. Konveyor consists of lots of various components, which we will talk about in some time. But it surfaces the information up, and then the migrator or the user can decide what they want to do with it. So the power is always in the hands of the user, the migrator, and it helps the organizations assist it provides an end-to-end journey for the organization from start to end. As to the question that you had, what was the story behind it? It did not start this way. So to my knowledge, when Konveyor was started, it was a bunch of tools that actually helped modernize, or like it had like various disjointed tools, like okay, I want to lift and shift, so use this tool, or I want to just create manifest, use this tool, and whatnot. I just want to analyze, use this tool, whatnot. And we do have amazing product manager who's also a maintainer. So he brings vast knowledge of migration. I think he worked on the field, so he knew the pain points that he saw in the industry actually, like how did this bigger enterprises did modernization. So like working with everyone, getting their inputs. That's how the current conveyor has been shaped. And once it got adopted into CNCF, it underwent a little bit of change, and then we positioned Konveyor as an unified experience platform. That means that like we focus solely on like bringing your app onto Kubernetes and related technologies and deploying it there. That's the gist of it. I could go a lot deeper, but I'm just gonna pause and then like see.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned about migrators or users being in control all the time, and how your product manager actually was person on the field who brought their valuable experience to this product project, really. Could you talk to some of the actual users of the project? Who are they really? Like, typically, are they more developers, platform teams, enterprises? What does that segment look like of Conveyor's users on a typical basis?
Of course. First off, like when we start the conversation, we set the stage that okay, bigger enterprises are in need of. They have thousands of applications. They are in need of a technology that can assist with their modernization. So when it comes to bigger enterprises, there is this platform team that deploys all the technologies that's needed for the organization to function well. So the platform teams of cluster operators who would be deploying and administering Konveyor. But it is actually used by the architects and migrators or developers who are responsible for migrating a stack from A to B. For example, Java 8 to Java, latest Java, like 21 or 25, whatever. So migrating from one stack to another. And the thing with architects are like they come with a very vast knowledge. So they set the direction, they set the strategy. They are like, okay, these have, and there are like custom libraries. Every company will have their own custom library, which is not available outside, and all the internal applications might be built around or using that particular library. The architects will have a lot of knowledge on how to use the library, what needs to be migrated and what not. And they'll also have ideas on what the functionality of other applications, how to migrate them. So they will jot down those knowledge in terms of like rules or solutions. And then the migrators, who are the next level of users who come into play, who actually does the actual migration. Sometimes they might have the knowledge about the technology, sometimes they don't. With the help of the architects who have already injected the knowledge in terms of rules, which is used for analysis, and in terms of solutions, which we will see later when we talk about Konveyor AI. So they'll use these existing knowledges and migrate. So like there are three different people, and there is also this project manager. So if you're in like a bigger enterprise, you have like thousands of applications that you want to migrate. When you scan those applications, you'll get to know how many incidents are there, or like what is the effort that is needed to migrate the application. So like Konveyor also lets you create migration waves, and these are used by the project managers to plan, okay, I'm going to migrate 10 apps this week or prioritize them, and that's all we will be able to do. So project managers or another set of people who could use Konveyor Hub. That's like a centralized web app where they would be able to see all the applications that were imported and learn more details about them. So that's another user who would be using the Konveyor. So like we talked about four, I think, yeah.
Yeah, and getting to the actual meat, right? Like, you were speaking about refactoring and Conveyor AI. So, targeting each one of them first. So, how does Conveyor actually you have this whole refactoring process, or does the whole refactoring process for a given application, and how does it use AI to actually automate the refactoring without using any sort of custom models or whatever? So maybe there
Sure.
are two questions in that, so I'm just going to like ask you to go through them one by one. So the meat is basically to understand how Conveyor does the refactoring in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So one of the goals or the project or like the project heavily focuses on these two keywords. One is like we want to do large scale modernization predictably and at scale. So originally when Khmer was developed, it was the end users were like enterprises. Now it could be used for um, single user or like someone with minimal applications as well, which I'll cover in like 2 minutes. But that was the original idea, that we wanted it to scale and do migrations predictably, because the bigger organization, there is safety and every concern is there. So when I talked about the architects, so every app, let's just say like there are 100 apps, the architect is just going to pick the first app, migrate it, and then he learn the migration pattern. The architect can, he or she, or they, whoever the architect is, the architect can learn the migration pattern, and architect can create start rules. So these rules are YAML structured, with certain conditions and whatnot. Like say like, okay, you see this particular pattern and this is what you have to flag and this is what you have to do. From their experience, they'll create these rules. These rules are shared widely with everyone within the organization, and we do have extensive rule repository for Java applications. I think it has around 2400 2500 rules. So they create the rules, and that defines the predictability, right? Because it says that, okay, when you see this particular pattern, you flag it, and this is how you can fix it. Once that's done, a report will be generated. So like you can run the same rule set for like 100, there are 100 applications that need to move from target A to target B. That's one language, the same language framework to another framework. You just run those applications as the same rule set. We call them as a migration profile, which is nothing but it'll say the name of the profile, it'll have a target technology, and it'll have like, okay, I want to go to Java 21, so that will be the target, and Java 8 will be the source. And then if they are using custom libraries, they might have some custom rules, so you can add them as well. So we'll call this as a profile. It will define how the analysis is done. Once the analysis is done, it will generate some kind of how do I say, it's like a incident report that will flag wherever the rules are triggered. So it'll say like, okay, on this line, on this function, on this class, we need to change this. So Conveyor can provide that much detail into where what needs to be changed. And it can also provide a 360 view of like what's happening from the top. Like you can just take a step back and see how many applications are there, how many incidents are there, and whatnot. So like you can drill down and see all these incidents. That's the first step for the refactoring part. So it identifies where and how and what needs to change. Then comes the Conveyor AI. You could ask like, how is it different from any AI, right? Like you could just use Cursor, Claude, whatever, Codex, whatever, and then like say, migrate this application for me. But when you do that, every time, even when I talk to an LLM and asking for something, every time the output is non-deterministic. But with Conveyor AI, what we are focused is that we want to make it a little bit deterministic, and the way we do it is that we use contextual information. We use RAG, get the information from the analysis, and then when we ask for a solution, or like when we ask LLM that, hey, can you migrate this code for me, so we will pass all the information with that, and that way we get like a predictable input back from LLM every single time we run. And this organizational knowledge comes from architects, and then it's used by all the migrators. I hope I answered the question. I hope I didn't go like too way off topic. Just want to pause and see. Okay.
No, you perfectly did answer the question, but now that opens up Pandora's box, I guess. So, what are the components of the project in general? Um, like for Kubernetes, we have different components, right? So, for Conveyor, what are the major components of the project itself? And could you like again a very high level overview, because I realize that this is not a technical deep dive session that we're conducting here. So maybe a high level overview of what the projects are that assist in this refactoring process that you just spoke of, sorry.
Sure. So we have a few components. One is the hub that I talked about. It's a web app, centralized location where you could import all the applications, do analysis, plan, and then there is this administrator control where you would be able to create profiles, targets, and whatnot, figure out RBAC, configurations, login, auth, and everything. And the next one is the Cantra. Cantra is a CLI tool, which is what I use most of the time because I love not going into my browser and looking around and stuff. I prefer to work from my terminal. So I always use Cantra. Cantra is a really quick tool, lightweight. It can do analysis for you. It can transform. It can test. It can do a lot of things. Basically, whatever that you could, like, for example, in the hub, if you have an application you want to run analysis, the same process, you just have single application, you can script it, and you can do so many things with Cantra. You can plug it into CI and whatnot. So that's another component we use for static analysis. I use for testing my applications. Whenever I write something I want to modernize, I use Cantra really quickly. I love the tool. And the third one is Conveyor AI. Conveyor AI, or Kai, is the newest addition component to the ecosystem, which provides AI-assisted code modernization with Conveyor's more own sauce. Now that we have talked about how it does, so it felt really long to say secret sauce. So I'm going to say, like, it's an open source project. It's all out there. So it has its Conveyor sauce on top. That is the third component. And one advantage of Kai is that, remember when we started talking, I told you, like, when the project was originated, it was kept, the mindset was like targeting the enterprises. Still is a goal, but we also want to target small developers who want to just do, like, they have 3 applications or 4 applications. For example, they are doing cloud native stuff and the APIs change really quick and they want to do modernization. They could use Kai. Kai comes in as a VS Code plugin. So if you are in VS Code, you could just install it. It's available on VS Code Marketplace. You can just go to the extensions and search for it. I think it's available through Cursor as well. I mean, whatever is available in VS Code Marketplace. I think we also have it on OpenVSX. I know my teammates were working on it. So the extensions available out there, so it's easy to install into your IDE of interest and then just modernize away. So these are like the high level components. In the interest of the time, I don't want to go more deep, but if you have any questions, you can find me, which we will talk at the end of the meeting where to find me.
So now that we've spoken about the IDE, I'm very curious, do we have multiple language support? Because you did mention Java, I know that, but do we have multiple language support for the VS Code extensions?
Of course we do. So Conveyor projects supports various languages, like we have support for C# .NET migrations, which is a huge chunk of next to Java migrations. I think they are the next huge migrations happening, .NET platform. And then we have support for Go, TypeScript, JavaScript, Python. And you can bring in your own provider, to be honest, if you want. We have provisions for that. It's really extensible. We have, if all you need is an language server, so we use language server protocol, which is technology from Microsoft. It's open sourced and it's used in VS Code. That's how the code gets highlighted and whatnot. Like so many things. Just not do that. It does more, but that's just like a very minimal analogy that I could come up with in this instance. Too much data in my head. Um, so you could bring in your own provider if you have a language that you want to migrate. If it has an LSP server, then you could just integrate it with Konveyor and use that to migrate your application. On the extension side, we do support C Sharp. In addition to Java, we support C Sharp, we support Go, and we support TypeScript and JavaScript. Those are the recent additions to the extension, and which are available in pre-release right now. And we have a release upcoming in 2 weeks from now on, next week or upcoming. So just before KubeCon, we have a release, and it will be there in the proper release channel available.
Right. So it does handle migrations beyond Java. Is that the summary that I can take away from here? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry for so much information that's crammed into like in a minute.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure our audience loves the depth that you went into in giving them the information. But again, you mentioned about asking Conveyor AI about the migration bit, right? So, is there a possibility that Kai can actually generate wrong code? And if it does, what could you do about it? And what should you do about it, really?
Sorry, can you repeat that again? I think it got cut out.
Okay, I'm really sorry. My net connection is probably wonky. So you were talking to how a Conveyor has Sky right now, Conveyor AI as a component, and how you can ask it about the refactoring bit. Now, when you ask, obviously it's an LLM and it can have some sort of hallucination effect, or
Mhm.
something could go wrong. So, what in that case can be done, and what would typical users of Kai or Conveyor do in such cases?
So we have certain guardrails in place, and we are working on this. Is an active R&D area for us. So what we do right now is that we provide as much context as we can, and Kai uses context aware RAG, which means that we are providing some of the issue details, how to fix it, and whatnot. And there is also this R&D component called Solution Server, where it basically collects all the accepted solutions, declined solutions for the particular incident or similar incident. And whenever LLM or whenever Kai sees something similar in the future, it gets a migration hint from the solution server in addition to all the context we are already passing, information about the code, and more information on how to solve it. And then it will also see how some of the previous issues or similar issues have been solved. So it gets all this information. So there is like, we try to reduce hallucination as much as we can through all these things. And this is an active area where we are investing more to figure out like how we can be more and more, make it predictable and safe for the users. Um, I think these little things that we do are actually helpful.
I bet it'll be helpful, and this actually reminds me that I have not really asked you the most important question of the hour, because uh, March is coming up. Of course, there's
Mhm.
KubeCon, but there's also another important um, deadline of sorts looming upon the entire cloud native user ecosystem, which is the Nginx ingress. Sorry, um, I'm getting it wrong. The Ingress Nginx migration,
Mhm.
because obviously it's getting removed, and
Mhm.
people need to plan ahead. How does Conveyor actually help with that, or can it help with that? Is the first question. And if the answer to that is yes, how can it help with that?
Sure. So yes and yes. So this is something that I worked on. I even put together a tutorial last week. So I think Divya will be able to share it at the end. I'll share it with Divya. Um, it can, of course, help with the migration. But before that, I want to take a minute to thank all the maintainers who worked really hard on the Ingress and Nginx. That was one of the, I think I'm saying that right. If it's other way, it's a paid product. So I'm talking about the open source version of it. I'm like really confused right now. The Ingress that comes with the Kubernetes project. So kudos to maintainers, thank you. And I think there is already an official replacement for it. That's the Gateway API. And the maintainers, again, have done an incredible job to create a tool called Ingress to Gateway, if I'm not wrong, that's the name of the tool, which can look into your cluster, live cluster, get the manifest and generate the equivalent. And then it can also look at the YAML manifest and create the equivalent for you. But there is a gap in terms of like sometimes these resources get created programmatically using the Kubernetes client. And that's where Konveyor can help. And the Go provider, the Go extension that we talked about, the Go language support from Konveyor can help there. So what I did was like they already have, the maintainers already have an amazing migration guide. I translated those migration guide into rules, and then I used Konveyor and Konveyor AI to do the migration. I'll share all the link with Divya, and she'll be able to share. There's a tutorial if you want to run through it. You can even use your own local Olama model to see what it spits out. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. One of the areas we are also investing is like how to make some of the rule authoring. Whenever I'm saying, I realize that I'm saying like, oh, I can write custom rules and whatnot. So we are figuring out how to make that process easier for the user as well. So there is some kind of research going on. But we do, so far, there have been like some work in the Konveyor ecosystem. If you take a look at it, you will be able to find some tools which can take in a migration guide and create the rules for you. And previous to that, it used to be like manual. Now there is like a lot of ways that we are working on making the user journey easier this way. And one of the things that right now the tutorial I have can be used to migrate Ingress to Gateway, but the Go provider, the Golang support can work for any cloud native applications. For example, if you want to move from one version of API to another one, you can use it. You can write your rules. You can provide a migration guide, and then say like create rules for me. And then like, okay, now the rules are there. You perform the analysis and then use Konveyor AI to do the migration. So it's just, I told it in a very simpler way. But if you run into any issues, you can find me on Cube Slack.
Yes, and I'm sure you know, you're going to receive a lot of traction from the information that you just provided, primarily because this is top priority for a lot of folks that I have spoken to in the ecosystem. And of course, like you said, the uh, Ingress folks have done a brilliant job in setting up a guide and everything else, but having a tool that is helping filling up those gaps, and having it being open source is a boom. And I'm sure, you know, there are a lot of folks who are going to appreciate all the work that has been put into making this journey simpler for them. With that, I think I have a few more things that I want to touch upon in terms of you know, making the user journey simple, because that is something that you spoke about right now. And what is something that y'all as a project are doing, and what are the upcoming new features that the ecosystem can expect from this project towards that goal? And in general, like, what's next for Conveyor on the roadmap?
Of course. So for the upcoming release, we have centralized config management. Remember, I talked about Hub in the beginning. So it's not possible for users to have their own rule sets, their own migration profiles, and it can be error prone, whatnot on the Kai side. So there is a way to sync for example, an architect or an administrator can configure these profiles for like X number of applications, and they can be synced onto Conveyor AI from the VS Code plugin, and then the users can just migrate away with that information. They don't even have to configure anything. So that's one of the features that's going to be shipped in a couple of weeks. It's already available. So if you go to the development builds, or like if you install the latest conveyor from the main branch, you'll be able to see that. The next one is LLM proxy. It's a lightweight proxy service. It's run in Kubernetes alongside conveyor and solution server, the R&D component we talked about. So it actually makes it easier for the administrator to configure the LLM keys as a Kubernetes secret, so that the users don't have to meddle with it. They don't need to have access. They just need the right RBAC. And once they are authenticated with the hub, the centralized component that we talked about, so the LLM proxy will get a JWT token, and the LLM proxy will use that. Once it verifies, it will use the secret in the cluster to talk to the LLM provider. And Conveyor doesn't store any data, it doesn't collect any data, and it also works in the principle of bring your own model. That also works for the companies with stricter laws, GDPR and whatnot, where the data needs to stay at one place, or like you'd have to use certain model for what. So it can be plugged into the pre-vetted model from the enterprise or the company, whoever already have access to certain models. It can just be plugged onto Conveyor and used. We don't collect any data, no telemetry, none of the data comes back to us. It's safe with the customer wherever they want it, or the enterprise user, or the end user in this case, wherever they want it. Regarding the newer features, we do have a newer version of C# .NET Provider. You can test it out from the extension or directly from the Conveyor hub as well. One of the things that I want to mention is that our project follows open governance. The governance is created from the principles from CNCF, and we have seen various other successful CNCF projects, taken inspiration from them, tweak the things that we need to tweak for a project of smaller scale. So we are a community-driven project, and we very much love or want to hear user stories. So like if you have a pain point, if you're using this project, or if you're doing any migration, that's all we want to hear. And of course, you're welcome to contribute features and whatnot. We have a very open request for feature process as well. Like you can go to the enhancements repository, just like how Kubernetes enhancements exist. We have a process for Conveyor. Just create an issue there. Someone will triage, ask questions, and then see. From there, we could create a discussion, see where it goes. So like we take a lot of input from the community. As to what comes next, I think we would want to make the current experience much better. And it can be like our motto, migrations in a predictable and safer way at scale. So probably we would be focusing more on that. And while improving the user experience overall, like minimize the friction, right from installation to running it end to end, and make it like the whole, it's already the whole
Package. Yeah.
modernization platform, but make it more wholesome and wholesomer if it's like possible.
Yeah. I mean, you are already hitting all the right notes with folks that are focused on sovereignty, because that's a huge theme that we're hearing all across the board, with your policies around no data collection and open telemetry and stuff. But I mean, truly appreciative of the open governance shout out that you just gave, because I believe, as the ecosystem develops and as more projects get into the ecosystem, it's as important to take in uh, multiple perspectives. I mean, it was already very important to do that, but irrespective of the level of project that you are, even if you're not within the CNCF, even if you are within the CNCF, I do think it's important to listen to the voices from the community and shape a project on the basis of that, because that's truly what open source is built on. With that, I think one of the last things that I want to ask of you is y'all are going to be there at KubeCon, I presume. So do y'all have a booth this time? Do you not have a booth? Or where can people find you if they are attending KubeCon? Do y'all have talks? Do you all have folks that we can reach out to? They can reach out to really when they when they come to KubeCon and they want to chat more about Conveyor.
Of course. So I will be there at KubeCon. I have a panel with three other amazing folks. We're going to talk about AI assisted modernization. So if you're interested to learn about the like the cloud native modernization, Conveyor, and similar cloud native projects, I think that would be an interesting talk. And I know another colleague of mine who's going to be presenting a lightning talk about Conveyor. And with respect to booth, I don't have the schedule quite yet. I think we might, but I would be there and people would be there. So like if you wanna like reach out, just ping me on Slack. I'm on Cube Slack. You can find me the same name, Savitha Raghunathan, if you search for it. I do have my photo there, so you can like easily find me. Just ping me if you want to have a chat about Conveyor or anything cloud native. It doesn't have to be on topic, but now that we're talking about Conveyor, I'm going to say Conveyor. But if you are passionate about open source and cloud native community, like I would always be up for chat.
Again, specific to Conveyor, are there any Slack channels on the Kubernetes or the CNCF Slack that folks can join in? I know there's the GitHub, which I am definitely going to post, and there's obviously our docs, which great job by the way on the docs. Like the docs are there, the GitHub is there. If they want to catch up with the maintainers and interact with the rest of the community, where can people find the Conveyor community? Is it just on GitHub and Docs, or are there Slack channels separately for interacting with the rest of the folks?
We do have Slack channels on Kubernetes Slack. So if you're there, I think there's a Slack inviter for Kubernetes. Once you join in, you can search for conveyor-dev. So those two are the channels where we are most active, and that's what we use. I am not sure if we have retired the channels from CNCF Slack. We used to have one, but I'm not sure. But we don't use that. So like please, like even our community repos and everywhere would refer to the Cube Slack. That's where we have the channels. That's where we do have one other way of reaching out to us. You can mail us via mailing list. I know it's old school,
Okay.
but we do have mailing lists that folks can use to like say whatever query that they have, they could easily reach out to us. And all this information are available on the community repo README. I can share that. And regarding their docs, I just want to give a kudos to Prabha, who has been awesome. She has done a great job with the Conveyor documentation right now.
Yeah,
I am passionate about documentation, so
yeah, as a docs maintainer, I did go through some of your docs, not all of it, to prep for the live session, and they are structured fantastically, and the user experience is pretty good. So I think that's it. We are 13 minutes over time, and if you give Savita and I a chance, we probably could carry this on for hours on end. So thank you to everyone that's joined our session today, and thank you so much, Savita, for joining us today. Apologies if anyone of y'all had questions. I didn't see anything on the chat, but in the interest of time and keeping time for everyone on here, we will be ending the session here. As Savita said, they are the Conveyor folks, maintainers, and the entire community is available to chat on the Kubernetes Slack. So please make sure you join there. And of course, please bookmark the links that I'm going to be putting in the comments shortly so that y'all can read up on Conveyor and, engage with the community and contribute to it possibly. So thank you once again, Savita. I know that was a long thank you ish message, but I am really glad that we got to do this together. and I'll see you at KubeCon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And likewise, we welcome any contribution. You can share your stories, migration stories. You have any questions, any curiosity, anything, any feedback, please feel free to reach out. Any of the ways that we have already mentioned, the mailing list or Slack channel or just a GitHub issue, someone will triage it. And yeah, if you are going to be at KubeCon, I will ping me if you want to talk about Konveyor. I'll be there. And yeah, all right. Thank you so much again for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you too. Bye.
Bye.